Hey YouTube, it's Spooky Boots here, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to get skate bearings into your wheels. Roll intro. Alright guys, so like I said, I'm going to be showing you how to get your skate bearing into your wheel. I'm going to show you guys two different methods, and both of these methods will work if you guys are rollerblading or skateboarding or quad skating. It doesn't matter. Both of these methods will get the bearings into your wheels. So the first method we are going to be using is the bearing press method. This method is for people who have recently acquired a bearing press or are thinking about getting one and basically just want to know how it works before they use it. The second method is going to require just our hands and our body weight. So we won't be using the bearing press. This method is the method I've been using the longest, and it's not necessarily the wrong method, but it's not the best way. If you guys are able to get a bearing press, I highly recommend it. It is going to save you time and energy. They're relatively cheap, so I've seen them on the internet go from anywhere from 50 to 30 to you can get used ones for like 20 bucks. So they're not too expensive, and it's just, now that I'm the owner of a bearing press, I definitely like using it. It's made my life a lot easier, and it's the right tool for the right job, but you don't need one. And like I said, the second method I'm going to show you guys is the method I've been using the longest, and it's also useful if you're in a bind, like you're at the skate park and you need to get some bearings into your wheels and you don't have a bearing press around. This method will work just fine, and it just takes a little longer, and it's not always the cleanest, but it does the job. Okay, so let's start with the first method here, which is the bearing press. I'm going to be doing this method in the studio today. The second method I'm going to show you, we're actually going to be stepping outside because we need a nice flat piece of concrete in order to get the bearing into the wheel. So I can't use my desk as a surface because it'll scratch up the desk, and I also can't put all of my body weight on the desk. So for the second method, we're going to start outside. So while we're inside, let's start with our first method here, which is the bearing press. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and start with our first method here, which is the bearing press method. So for the demo today, I'm going to be using the Conjure Cosmic wheel. This is a rollerblading wheel, but like I said, guys, if you're skateboarding, quad skating, rollerblading, doesn't matter. It'll get the bearing into the wheel. Make sure you have your bearing spacer. So this is the spacer that goes between your two bearings on the inside of the wheel. Grab your two bearings. So the shield side is the outside of the bearing. This is the inside of your bearing. So you don't want this to be facing outward. You want something to look like that to be facing outward. So we have everything we need for the press. So let's go ahead and grab our press here. When you get your press, you're gonna have two press spacers. When you open up your press, you're gonna see two spacers in there, and they look like this. And there is an inside and an outside to these spacers. So if you run your finger over the top, you can feel either a completely smooth side or a side where there's a little bit of a lip on the inside of the hole. We want that little bit of a lip to be facing our bearing. So I'm gonna show you guys, try to show you guys a close-up here. So that with a little bit poking out is the what's gonna be facing the bearing. The other side is completely smooth, and that's gonna be facing away from the bearing. We have our press opened up here. Go ahead and grab your press bearing, or your press spacer, sorry guys, your press spacer. Get your rod upright like that. Put the spacer on, and that is the first step. Second step is bearing. Go ahead and put your bearing shield side down, so that way the lip of the spacer is pressing on the bearing. Go ahead and grab your wheel now, and it doesn't matter what side's up or down, and just kind of line it up loosely. Now, this is the important part. You don't want to forget your bearing spacer here. I've done this so many times and have forgotten this step. So go ahead and grab your bearing spacer, put that on the rod, and that'll fall down into the wheel. Grab your second and final bearing and go ahead and make sure, like I said, the color side out, or this shield looking side out. If you have sealed bearings, it doesn't matter. Make sure this side is out. and put that on the rod. And then finally, your press spacer here. So remember what I said, guys, there's a side with a lip with an edge, and then there's a completely smooth side. We want the completely smooth side to be facing up now because we want our edge side to face the bearing to press it in. Now we can close our little system here, and everything is just kind of free floating. And we can check if we've done everything right. So we got press spacer with the lip facing toward the bearing. We have our bearing. If we move our wheel to the side here, we have our bearing spacer. We have our wheel. We have our other bearing. And then we have our, finally we have our press spacer here with the edge side facing the bearing. So what we're gonna do is just make sure everything kind of lines up and then just press. And then when we take it off, we have our spacer and we have our wheel, and then the other spacer still on here. So that is how you get a bearing into a wheel using a bearing press. And it's nice and clean. There's no bearing poking out. It's in there nice and snug. All right, guys, so that was our bearing press method. It's a super clean, easy method. It's kind of satisfying to press the wheel together too. There's like a whole sensation. So now we are moving on to the second method where we're gonna have to step outside of the studio. I need a flat concrete surface in order to do the second method. But before we do that, I would like to ask that if you guys are enjoying the content and you're finding everything I'm saying useful and informative, go ahead and give me a like. And if not, let me know in the comments down below. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And finally, I would like to ask that if you guys are enjoying the content and you're returning to the channel, if you could go ahead and subscribe. I have a goal of getting to 500 subscribers by March, I believe, and I think it's very doable. So if you guys could go ahead and subscribe, it would help me out. It'll help the channel grow. Now, with all that said, let's go ahead and get these bearings in the wheels using the second method. And we are outside now. Sorry for the extra noise, guys. I can't control the outside, so hopefully the audio is okay. But here we go. So for this method, we're going to take our wheel. We're going to put our bearing on top of the wheel. And I give it a gentle press, and sometimes it's enough to get the bearing most of the way in. So for example, you can see it's already almost in there completely. Flip the wheel over. Don't forget your bearing spacer. Go ahead and drop that in there. Get your other bearing and go ahead and put it on top there. And again, you can give it a gentle press. And so this one's a little tougher, so I am having a little harder time getting it in there. So what I'm going to do in this case, I'm going to flip it over and just stand on the wheel. I'm going to use my heel and that was enough to get the bearing in there completely. Sometimes if it is poking out a little bit, I'll get my other bearing and I'll put that under the wheel. And I'll get my other bearing, put that on top of the wheel, and stand on it again. And that'll kind of get it in there the rest of the way. So now we have our wheel with our bearings. You can also check if it's still sticking out. Spin your wheel, look at it down straight, see if it's wobbling from side to side, like that when you're looking at it. Mine's not, so it is in there completely, and it is in there solid. So let's go back into the studio. All right, guys, and that was how to get your bearings into your wheels using two different methods. One, the clean and easy bearing press. Two, the outside body weight press. Both methods work just as fine. I hope you guys found the video useful, insightful. If you guys like the content, go ahead and give the video a like. If you want to see more, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.